Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Play Shadow Hearts. Last time, Yuri went through the trials. This time, pretty much everybody else is going to go through. But as I was saying in the last episode, well, I'm going to kind of cut this up and just show you the greatest hits, for the most part. I'm basically just choosing specific battles to show off that either accentuate, what certain characters do well, what they do poorly. Anytime I die, that's going to show up on here as well. And I've recorded all these over the past few days just without commentary, so I'm going to do post-commentary for the entire thing, which I don't do all that often, so hopefully we don't get too off track here. Anyway, Keith is probably, as I said in the last episode, pretty much the next best character to use in the pit fights. He has an innate advantage that nobody else has, and that is Bloodsucker. He's able to both deal damage and heal at the same time. It is very, very useful. No one else has this ability, and he makes very good use of it. He doesn't have to stop damaging to heal, and he's the one who almost never has to use items except for to restore his MP. Now, pretty much his best way of dealing damage is his physical attack, if I can hit the ring. And if I can't hit the ring, I'm screwed, because he doesn't do as much damage with his other abilities. So for the most part, I've just built him up to focus on dealing more physical damage. So everyone will have a crucifix. I'll probably mention that more than once, but I also gave him the small jug. As you may notice, his SP is quite low there. But the small jug is just really, really good on him, just because he has the SP to make good use of it. The other one I went with was the Demon Earrings. That's the main reason why I didn't show off too much, or I'm not going to show off too much when it comes to Keith, just because he's pretty much the best character here. Now we do have a new ability here, Larva. It just consumes too much MP, so in this case I will go for something that does consumes less MP, and we'll still be able to knock these guys out. Pretty much anytime you run into multiple enemies, in between, some of the stronger ones, this is when you'll want to buff up your HP and your MP. Just make sure you're, in good shape going into most fights there. Not all of them are super dangerous. One thing of note is with this battle formation, for some reason the middle one will guard a lot of attacks and he won't die in one go. And then he starts spamming Nightmare. And I mean every single round he spams Nightmare. And it does have a chance of instant death. So again, make absolutely certain you have a crucifix on. Otherwise, you're dead. Now, more often than anything else, you'll see the wind shears in these clips because, well, the wind shears are pretty much the most deadly enemies you can encounter in here. Now, they have 1100 HP, and they have different attacks, some of which we didn't get to see in Yuri's trials. They can inflict Blind Ring and deal damage while doing so. If they get that off, and for whatever reason, it never hit me, as far as I know, Crucifix does not protect against ring abnormalities, but I was never hit by any of their ring abnormalities during the recording of all of this stuff, over the past few days. So, yeah. It's something to think about, but as long as you have a Crucifix on, most things you are protected against. The reason why I started off with Keith, not only was he the next strongest character I have, but his item, the Belt of Thor, is the most useful item, at least through the rest of the tournament, or the rest of the pit fights here, because it is going to be one of the things I want to use on Haley. You could also use it on some other characters, kind of depends on how you want to play things. I've given him, of course, the Crucifix, the Warlock Earrings, and the Belt of Thor. Now, the Belt of Thor is very much like the Power Belt, except it boosts your special attack power by a lot more. I think it's like by 8 or 10 points. And the Power Belt, or Belt of Power, or whatever it is, that only boosts it by about 6. So it's a decent amount better, and the added, few points actually does, it can make a difference, especially when we're so close like this. Haley's an interesting character to bring into these fights. And the reason for that is, well, Haley has a lot of different elemental attacks that he can use. So basically with him, I've buffed up his special attack power, put him in the back row, and he's going to be loading spells at the enemies throughout all of these fights. In this particular case, Rawson is Fire Elemental, so we're going to use Aqua Blade, since it, of course, will deal the most damage here. But there are a number of other fights in here where he'll be able to make use of other elements as well. Specifically, off the top of my head, the Tindalos, the Demon Dog, and this guy, Rawson, they're both Fire Elemental. The Night Stalker, I believe, is the hanging upside down guy, and I think he is Earth Elemental, if I remember correctly. The Mammon boss is also Earth Elemental, so we have powerful ways of taking down both of those. Those are like kind of the main bossy ones, and then of course the wind shears. One of them is wind-based, and I believe the other one is light-based, if I recall correctly. I don't have all my notes for actually fighting these guys up. I'm doing most of this from memory and from the fact that I just scrubbed through an hour and a half plus worth of footage from all of the fights that I've actually competed in against these guys. Because I just put the recorder on and then, you know, would record this character, and then the next day I did the next character. I was able to get both Keith and Haley in the same day because they're both relatively good at things. Pretty much anytime you want to heal, use a Thera extract. I had put the pedometer and the accelerator on pretty much anytime I was doing anything over the past week's worth of episodes because, well, I wanted to trade them all in for Thera extracts because they are the most efficient way of healing. Not only does using an item reduce the kind of the recovery time after your turn, so you'll get your next turn faster, but it's a full heal, so that's great too. Even though this guy builds up, oops, I'm knocking things. Even though this guy builds up his special defense pretty much all the time, you're still going to do more damage with a special base attack with Haley than you would even if you had buffed his physical attacks. It's just, his ring's not my favorite to do. I suck at it. The critical hit spots, or the perfect little hit areas, those are relatively small on his ring, and I just find I miss them more often than anything else. So yeah, for the most part, there's not really anything else we can do with Haley. He's, I don't know, he's more magically based in my opinion. Like, his stats, like Margaret's, are very balanced between both physical and special, but I find Margaret does better in the physical role, and he does better in the magical role, mainly because he has better spells. Margaret, as we'll see later, really doesn't have all that great spells. Alright, basically I've shown anytime we run into the wind shears primarily because each character can kind of handle it differently, and each time we run into them, it's basically another chance at dying throughout these pit fights. And of course, I was probably double checking what element this guy was, and now that I found it, okay, he's earth-based, not wind-based. Because we're going to use air shot here. Now, because we know they have 1100 HP, we need to find a way of dealing approximately that amount. And ow, that hurts. When fighting the wind shears, I'm playing it a little bit risky here, but you'll definitely want to keep your HP above 250, if not above 300. As you'll see later on, the other guy, I believe he is the full armor wind shear, he has an ability, and you'll want to have your HP even higher. Not to mention, you'll want to account for the fact that sometimes they can get critical hits on their normal attacks, so, you know, there's that idea as well to kind of be aware of. And the thing with them is, as you can see, you basically get the chance to do one attack per turn, and then you're kind of screwed after that. See, here I go for the air shot, even though I could probably kill him with a lot less, because he's only got about 100 HP left. But I wasn't really thinking at the time, or whatever excuse I don't know. I'll demonstrate, you know, making better use of not wasting that much MP in subsequent fights there. And of course, if you run into large groups, just make sure to use your all-targeting attacks. And with Haley, we only have Black Hole. And I can't remember if I've shown that off, which is the only reason it's part of this footage. It does have the chance of inflicting instant death, so that's one advantage to using that. And it kind of looks cool. Yeah, nobody got hit with instant death, but that's fine. And don't mind the amount of experience I got from that fight. That's not the amount I actually got from it. I just cut the footage up so that you could see me learning this ability, which is Reviver, which is the next ability he can learn. And after you've completed 10 battles with Haley, what do we get? The Metal Jacket, his ultimate armor in the game. Now, this is the only one I'm going to go into and take a look at right away, and that's because it's armor and not an accessory. I have a reason for waiting on the accessories, but as you can see, it's the best armor for him. But the odd thing about it is it only cuts earth damage in half instead of earth and wind like everyone else's ultimate armor. This may be a bug in the text and not a bug in how the armor actually works. I haven't seen any evidence one way or another in the research that I've done, but that's just an interesting point to note there. Oh, Zhu Zhen. You're not going to have fun with this one, are you? This is the only time I show the fight against the Mamam because it is the longest fight in here and it takes forever. We also have Thunder Roar, a new ability that I've learned, I believe, off-screen for him. So let's take a look at what we can do with that. Thunder Roar is air elemental or wind elemental or whatever you want to call it. We might have shown it off already, I can't recall. Again, Crucifix. Zhu Zhen also has the Warlock earrings, and he has the Berserker earrings, which give him 20% more HP, because the amount of HP he had before is just unacceptable, and it just makes it almost impossible for him to fight the wind shears, because he just needs that additional HP. Mainly because the wind shears can deal so much damage, you could be stuck in a loop of healing every single round unless they miss, and that's just not fun. So I would recommend giving him the additional HP, he really does need it. Other than that, if you're not doing that, you could try and give him, I don't know, something to reduce MP cost. It's the only other thing I would really consider giving him, just because you know he's going to spam some of his most expensive spells all the time. One other thing of note that I haven't gone over in any great amount of detail is with the different seals that I've used. I got a whole whack ton of the seal of speed. If you recall from an earlier episode, we were able to do it in lottery. I think I picked up like 5 of them. Well, 4 of them went to Zhu Zhen because he's one of the slowest characters in the game. And that's the only reason he's able to get multiple turns here. I boosted him. I think I also gave him 2 more earlier in the game when I did my last batch of seal usage. And, well, it's going to help him out. Needle Rain is an interesting ability. It does around 200 damage and is the most damage that the Mamam enemy can do to us at this point. But be absolutely certain that all of your characters have at least 200 HP at all times when fighting this guy. Otherwise, you could be in a lot of trouble when Needle Rain comes in. One thing of note is Needle Rain doesn't tend to show up as an attack from this guy until the boss is at a lower amount of HP. So as you can see, once they get to that lower amount of HP, they love to spam the crap out of it. But just kind of be aware that if you see that, you're pretty close and kind of power through as much as you can, while still making sure that you're safe. It sucks to go through, you know, 7 or 8 or 9 of these fights and then die and then have to restart the whole thing again. Everyone handles that fight a little bit differently. Most handle it not too bad. And I'm getting weird, glitchy. Okay, seems to be working again. Good. Okay. But yeah, each character handles it differently. Haley also has an elemental spell that does quite a bit of damage. Margaret and Keith tend to do physical attacks. Alice, well, we have her ability, and that's the best we kind of have her. She has one move, and that's all she does the entire pit fight, all 10 fights, that's all she does. Again, our most powerful attack, we might as well make use of it here. These particular ones, I got really lucky in this fight. There are a number of times where I fought this guy and just had a really, really bad time of it. But again, Zhujian's in the back row, if I haven't already mentioned that. That's going to be the true for anyone who's using primarily spells. But yeah, I got really lucky in this fight. He just didn't do a whole lot of damage to me, and I did just enough to take him down in 2 rounds. That's the ideal if you can manage your perfects there. And what do we got in this fight? Okay, we got another one of these guys. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to show each of them just because they present more challenge than pretty much anyone else because they deal so much more damage. Again, it's our most powerful attack at this point, so we might as well make use of it. Anytime you fight weaker enemies in between fights against these powerful guys, make sure that's when you're using your items, because you're not, you know, in worry of dying. In my case, I kind of screwed up a little bit. But the thing is here, I'm taking a huge chance, because if I don't kill this guy now, I'm dead. I lose. Probably the reason why I made sure not to go out of my way and try and go for the perfect. And of course after that I was just hoping that my next fight wasn't going to be against somebody strong. In this case, I think I had a fight in between, hopefully. Yeah, I had a fight in between, so I was able to heal there. Now, this is an interesting fight, and I was thinking about this, because this guy is air elemental. So I went all the way back and I tried Corpse Arm on this guy. You know, it's a much older spell, but it exploits his weakness. So here we can see how much damage we do with that, about 530 with a perfect. And so I tried some of his other spells to see which would be kind of the most efficient way of dealing with this particular enemy. And I think this is kind of a good demonstration of which kind of spells you should probably use on everybody. So Fury Serpent is the water one. It's not something that's strong against this guy, but it's not weak either. It does less damage, costs more MP, so we definitely shouldn't use that. And Thunder Roar is his own element. It is wind. And unfortunately, I couldn't pull off the perfect this time, but as you'll see, it probably wouldn't have made much difference anyway, because, yeah, much less damage. So we definitely want to go with the weaker spell because it can exploit his weakness, and that seems to be more important than, you know, sheer attack power. But yeah, one of the things you'll notice coming in here is if you're using a lot of your spell-based characters, it's usually a lot easier to get perfects than if you're, say, trying to use, you know, physical attacking characters where you have to hit, you know, perfect on 3 different hitboxes. In this case, you know, you have 1, 2, or 3 steps, which you can hit anywhere, and then only 1, you know, damage area that you have to try and hit for a perfect. So it's a little bit easier there. And we gotta heal up. But yeah, again, use items. One of the things that I did in between, I think the first couple of them and getting Zhujian in here, was I went back to Prague, and when I was in Prague, I bought, I think it was up to 15 more of the mana extract items so that I could fully heal my MP. That was, I guess, part of the reason why I accounted for the extra money. Eventually, we will get Yuri's ultimate weapon, and we'll be able to see that one's going to cost us a bunch of money as well. But more importantly than that, we wanted to make sure we had extra money to buy specific things, like, you know, those mana extracts, just to heal up our MP in one turn. And here we get the Silver Hand. I'll go over what this does later. This is an item, I believe it changes your, it's one of those ring items. I can't remember exactly what it does off the top of my head, so I'm not going to try and guess at it, because I'll probably get it wrong. Now, we've learned a new ability through, with Margaret here. Now, Margaret's kind of an odd one here, because I actually tried two different setups with Margaret. The first time I fought these guys, I went for the setup of the Crucifix, the Warlock Earrings, and the Belt of Thor, same way as I set up Haley there. And the other thing that's interesting is because her physical attack is also effective, I decided to put her in the front row. Certain enemies she'll want to use nothing but, you know, bazooka or, you know, something else to deal with, say, an elemental enemies. And of course I ran out, so I decided to just attack the guy normally. And then wait for another fight to heal up, just because this guy can be annoying. He has the Death Touch ability, which of course reduces you by a percentage, and we don't want to be in the fight any longer than we have to when he's able to do that. One more attack. Even if I miss. Hopefully. There we go. The Dark Judge. I put this one in here because I found out something when I was fighting this guy with Margaret that I didn't know before. Probably because I missed instead of being able to one-shot him. And he has the ability of doing Death Touch as well. So just figured I'd let people know that he's able to do that. Just because I don't think I've seen that listed anywhere, and I didn't know he could do it, so... Anyway, you'll notice now that Margaret actually has more HP at this point, and that's because I had to redo this one. Margaret didn't fare so well this time around. And the reason for that is, well, the wind shears aren't always nice. Speaking of those wind shears, the reason why I wanted to show off everybody else fighting them is the same reason why I'm showing this particular fight off. Now, you could basically use on switch, or you could use her physical attack. They both do about the same amount of damage because on switch is non-elemental. But the downside to either one is, depending on which equipment you have, that will boost that particular one, or that particular type of attack. So Demon Earrings will increase your physical attack, and Warlock Earrings increases your special attack. And the thing is, since they're non-elemental, they're not really good against anyone in particular, and it doesn't seem to matter what Margaret does, she doesn't always have a good way of dealing with a lot of the enemies. All of her attacks do about, you know, her best attack and her second best attack just do around the same amount of damage against almost everybody. Doesn't seem to matter who she's facing in here. So as you can see, it's going to take more than 3 hits in order to finish this off, and this guy just did a crap ton of damage, and I was not expecting that. And I lost that one, I think, at level 8. I'd beaten 7 in a row, and then I died. So this time we ended up fighting this guy instead, the Perfect Wind Shear instead. So I was like, well, I'm a little more prepared for this guy, and I should be fine. So we're just going to go for on switch again. Just one of the reasons why I was doing a lot of on switch is, 1, I had the Warlock Earrings on to boost it, and 2, I was having a really bad day with Margaret's attack ring, and I kept missing it, so I just kind of said the hell with it. I'll use more MP instead, whatever. But one thing of note here is, ow, that hurts. So let's heal. We gotta heal. Gotta make sure we're healed up. There was an attack that I never got to show before that this guy is capable of doing. Well, one, he can do fast ring, and again, doesn't seem to hit me. I was like, oh, I got 300 HP. More than fine to take this guy down. We'll just hit him one more time and we'll be good to go. And I think he's got a little bit of HP left after this, maybe 200. So, should be able to follow up with a normal attack as long as I don't miss. Well, he's got Shining Arm of Death. Shining Arm of Death, as you can kind of tell, is a complete ripoff of Corpse Arm. It also does 360 damage, and I died twice. This time I think I was on level 5 or 6. This is when I said, okay, the hell with it. I'm equipping the Berserker earrings on her instead of the Belt of Thor, which is why she has more HP on this one. And I'm just going to take it much, much safer. I also got to fight both of these guys, I don't think it was back-to-back, but both of them in the successful attempt that I did at doing Margaret's pit fight. But yeah, this one took longer than everything else because it just took forever. You know, you get up, 7 or 8 levels, you die, you have to start all over again. When you die, as I showed in the previous one there, it's not like you get game over or anything like that. You just get kicked out and go back to the menu and try again. So it's not, terrible as far as, losing progress. It's just time consuming. Am I going to use the Thera Root or I'm going to use the Thera Extract? Okay, I couldn't remember. There are times where you'll only want to use the Thera Roots, specifically in fights against anyone who uses Death Touch, like the Tyndalos dog enemy. Because, well, if you're boosting up your HP to max and you use Death Touch again, you didn't really get anything that you wouldn't have got, the immediate survivability of just using the Thera Roots. So use those whenever possible, but if you need to be full on HP, make sure to use the Thera Extracts. They cost 5,000 or they cost 100 steps, whatever you want to spend on them. But yeah, like I said, I was able to get both of these guys in her successful foray into this, so we basically fight them both the same way. I was lucky enough to have a weaker battle prior to this one, so that I was able to heal up her MP and her HP prior to coming into this fight. In fact, this one might actually be the last fight that she had to face. But yeah, Shining Arm of Death. As soon as it uses this on me, I'm basically in the point where I have to heal right away, because I can't survive another one. Which makes this fight probably one of the more difficult fights in the game, or well, in the pit fights anyway. And I didn't think to put her in the back row, even though I was primarily using her spells when I can hit the ring. Yeah, I'm sparing you some of the longer fights with Margaret because it took me a while because I missed the ring a lot that day. It was not particularly an effective day for me. In fact, there was actually one fight, I think it was against Mammon, where I had Margaret fighting Mammon and I actually ran out of SP. Ew. Hit?
Yeah, I can use some help here.
Yeah, but I ran out of SP and I had to actually restore SP in the fight, which is terrible, just because I missed the ring so much. But yeah, fast ring again. Pretty much, I was going overly cautious here. If I just hit him again, he's probably dead anyway. But I just wanted to be sure. And it's never, a bad idea to make sure you have enough HP to survive, whoever you fight next in the tournament there. So, tournament, pit fight, I don't know,
yeah,
gauntlet.
I can use some help here.
It's more of a gauntlet. And after all of that effort, dying twice, what do we get for Margaret? Fuck you, game. Fuck you. For some stupid reason, the prize you get with her is tissues. And you think, well, it's only frickin' tissues. It's not like we need it. Well, you do need one of them to get the air gravestone, but I was able to get it as a drop from an enemy. But the thing is, everyone has to beat this. All of your characters must win 10 in a row. Otherwise, you won't get complete item collection, and, well, you kind of want that. Alice. Alice has a fancy new ability. No, not Arc. Not Resurrection. What am I doing? I'm drunk. Her ultimate ability will do that to the Judgment Ring. It kind of glows and incinerates. Now, if you're perverted, you'll notice we get an upskirt shot, and you may note the color of a certain lady's panties. The only reason that I mention this, well, there's an item in this game that changes that color. No, I'm not kidding. I haven't actually seen this because this is like a special reward that you can't get in like one playthrough of the game, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But primarily, if you get a complete enemy bestiary, then you can get an item from Old Carl or Knowledgeable Carl, whatever his name is, the guy that's in this area. And he will give you, I think it's the black satin panties or something like that. I don't know what they do off the top of my head, but he gives them to you if you get all of the enemies. The only way to do that is on a second playthrough because it includes the final boss in that calculation, and there's no way of healing or no way of saving and going back to talk to him after fighting the final boss. So you'll have to make a whole new file to do that, and it's not really worth it in my opinion. But one other thing you'll notice here is the Shining Arm of Death does substantially less damage to Alice as opposed to Margaret. And that's because, well, she's got way more special defense. And, well, we actually do use Blessed Light if you don't want to waste, 90 MP on using Advent all the time, or was it 120 MP? Then, yeah, just use Blessed Light if you want to deal 200 damage or less, pretty much. Yeah, you don't get any money or experience. Well, you don't get money for any of the fights in here, but you don't get any experience for fighting any of the wind shear enemies. There's only the... Oh, excuse me. There's only the two over here. The perfect one and a mist. There's the Death Touch. There's only the... this guy can't do a huge amount of damage to you, so Theraroot's probably fine here. Not to mention, we're not too worried about being at max, but his normal attack doesn't do all that much. Alice is in the back row, as you might expect. She has Crucifix, Warlock Earrings, Berserker Earring, just to get the extra HP for survivability. But yeah, this guy can't do all that much damage with his physical attacks, so we don't need to have a huge amount of HP, but you'll probably want, in most fights, to have above 100, 150 HP at a bare minimum, and with the specific encounters that I mentioned against the wind shears, you'll probably want to have at least 300 pretty much at all times, just so you're not going to end up dead by like a random critical or something like that, because that can really ruin your day. But yeah, this is the way Alice deals with all of the fights in the tournament. She just spams Advent the entire time. This is why I wait until she gets to level 48 before I bring her in here, because Blessed Light does crap for damage. This is the only way she can keep up and deal enough damage to basically survive this and do it in a reasonable amount of time. She actually handles the tournament relatively well because of that. But if you're, if you haven't done that, you'd have to try and rely on either physicals or blessed light, neither of which are very good. It's just not worthwhile, in my opinion, to try and do that. Again, I could have shown, all the other different battles. Anytime you fight a group of multiples, multiple enemies, that's the time to heal your MP, heal your HP, use an all-targeting attack to take rid of them, or, you can pick them off one at a time if you want to. If you ever fight the bugs, always just use an attack to finish them off. Unless you're, like, really low on HP and MP and you need to heal, then you can heal in that fight, and I've had to before. But yeah, as you can see, he's not doing that much damage to you, so in this fight, you don't need to have too much HP. As long as you've got over 100, you're probably safe. But yeah, this guy's only got like 2,000 HP, so once you know you're close and you can deal about 200 damage with this, just finish him off, and then we're pretty much good to go. So I hope that has kind of gone over kind of the main important aspects of the pit fights. It shows not everything that can go wrong, but it does show a number of things and kind of how to react to them and that kind of thing. For defeating it with Alice, we get the crucifix, our 4th one, for some reason, because we need 4. Once everyone has beaten it 10 times, that's when we get an extra special bonus, a commemorative prize. This one is quite nice. The crystal ring. I will go over that and, some of the other, there's one other item I think that we got when we fought Seraphic Radiance. That's the last of the ring collection. We also got the other 4 for defeating the masks, and I think, I don't know, maybe one from Margaret in one of her side quests or something like that. But anyway, we'll go over those next time. And that's pretty much all the time we have for today. So yeah, I will see you guys next time.